You click this because you're tired, not physically tired, existentially tired. You're exhausted from the performance, the version of yourself you show on social media, the personality you've engineered for your boss, the person your parents need you to be, the success metrics everyone measures you against. Statistics show that 73% of professionals report feeling like imposters in their roles. 68% experience chronic stress trying to maintain an image. Only 12% say they feel authentic at work. John Wick, the character, the myth, the box office phenomenon, represents something deeper than action sequences. He represents the moment when a man stops performing for everyone else and finally asks, "Who am I?" when no one's watching. This is the script about that moment. And what happens when you discover the answer? A man stands in the rain, not a man, a ghost wearing a man's skin, blood on his hands, not from the bodies around him, from himself. He's killed 295 people in 5 years, and he still doesn't feel like enough. The camera pulls back. Keanu Reeves' face, hollow, haunted. His eyes are looking at you, not through you. He whispers, "Everyone thinks they know who I am. Nobody knows who I've stopped being." Let's go back, not to the beginning of John Wick the assassin, to the beginning of the man who became him. Keanu Reeves was born into a world of performance anxiety. His father, Samuel Nowlin Reeves Jr., was a geologist and businessman. His mother, Patricia, was a performer, literally, a costume designer and artist. The family moved constantly: Hawaii, Australia, Canada, New York. Stability was the performance. Love was measured in consistency nobody could provide. In interviews, Keanu has spoken about his childhood with deliberate vagueness. He doesn't perform nostalgia. He performs absence, the emotional landscape of a kid watching people he loved disappear or transform. His father abandoned the family when Keanu was 3. That's the foundation. Not abandonment by choice necessarily, but abandonment as a defining absence. The performance starts early. I will not need. I will not ask. I will be so accomplished, so talented, so valuable that no one can leave me again. By his teenage years, Keanu was already a legend. He was acting in Canadian television. He was the kid who could disappear into characters so completely that people forgot to look for the real person underneath. He was winning awards. He was getting recognition. And none of it was touching the hollow part. Keanu has never married, never had biological children. In 2019, at age 55, he finally appeared publicly with a long-term partner, Jennifer Lowe. But for decades, he lived a life of near monastic privacy, not humility, performance disguised as humility. The interviews where he deflects kindness, the whoa moments where he seems almost confused by praise. That's not authenticity. That's a man so trained in performing adequacy that he's forgotten what genuine self-expression feels like. 1999. The Matrix changes everything. Keanu becomes Neo. And here's the irony. He plays a man waking up from a simulation, realizing he's been living in an illusion. Meanwhile, Keanu himself is trapped in a different simulation. The performance of being the perfect actor, the humble genius, the guy who doesn't care about fame. That performance becomes more real than the person. The Matrix Reloaded in 2003. The Matrix Revolutions in 2003. He's the biggest star on the planet. And the interviews? Still deflecting, still performing smallness in the shadow of massive success. But something shifts. In 2008, his sister Kim is diagnosed with cancer. She survives, but the fragility becomes real. In 2009, Jennifer's miscarriage forces him to confront loss, real, devastating loss, not loss as a character motivation. He's 45 years old, worth hundreds of millions, and he realizes he's been performing his entire life for an audience that doesn't actually exist. The achievement is hollow, the accolades distant, the love both given and received, filtered through layers of performance so thick he can barely remember what authenticity feels like. 2014 John Wick. Keanu is 49 years old. Most careers are winding down. He takes a role as a retired assassin whose dog is killed, whose house is invaded, who methodically hunts down the people responsible. Critics call it a comeback. Keanu knows better. It's not a comeback, it's a reckoning. Here's what nobody talks about. John Wick isn't about revenge for a dog. Read between the script. The dog represents the one innocent thing in a life built on performance and violence. The dog doesn't need John Wick to be perfect, doesn't need him to prove anything, doesn't judge the body count. When the dog dies, John Wick loses the only audience that asked him to simply be. So he does what any performer who's lost his authentic audience does. He escalates. John Wick, Chapter 2 in 2017. John Wick, Chapter 3, Parabellum in 2019. John Wick, Chapter 4 in 2023. 4 films, 3 hours, and counting of cinematic violence. Each one darker, each one more brutal, each one asking the same question. How much destruction does a man need to inflict on the world to finally prove to himself that he exists? Keanu Reeves trained for these roles with martial artist Jeff Imada, combat choreographer John Eusebio. He learned judo, jiu-jitsu, 9mm pistol handling. He trained 10 hours a day for weeks. He built John Wick's body by destroying his own. By Chapter 3, Keanu is 55 years old, doing his own stunts. He's beaten, stabbed, shot, hit by cars. In one scene, he jumps off a building. In another, he fights a man on horseback. He's literally performing pain in front of millions to prove he's still real. And the reviews? Insane. Box office? Massive. Critical acclaim? Peak. But Keanu in interviews still deflects. It was just a fun role, he says. Great stunt team. Never. I needed to destroy myself to feel alive again. The performance never stops. Hey, if you're watching this, you're already in this story. You know the feeling of performing, of building a version of yourself and defending it relentlessly. If this is resonating, hit that subscribe button. And in a few minutes, we're going to get to the part where everything changes. Because John Wick's story, Keanu's story, doesn't end in performance. It ends in devastation and rebirth. Here's what the mythology misses in John Wick. Chapter 4, Keanu's character doesn't win in the traditional sense. He survives. He's blinded in one eye. He's poisoned. He's broken. And in the final confrontation, he doesn't try to prove anything to anyone except himself. That's the shift. The filmmakers, David Leitch directing, Shay Hatton writing, they understood something about performance that most blockbusters miss. The traditional hero's journey says, you overcome obstacles and become greater. John Wick says, you overcome obstacles and become smaller. You realize that the performance was the obstacle, the need to be impressive, the need to prove your worth through body counts, through achievement, through legacy. Keanu has spoken in recent interviews about arriving at this realization in his mid-50s. Not through therapy, though certainly that helped. Through physical exhaustion. Through repetitive trauma done for art. Through finally reaching a point where performing wasn't sustainable. The body keeps score, as researcher Bessel van der Kolk writes. You can perform strength for decades, but eventually the nervous system revolts. Keanu's nervous system started revolting around 2020. John Wick. Chapter 4 releases to massive critical acclaim and box office success. Keanu is 58 years old. He's in the best shape of his life. He's doing interview circuits talking about the philosophical depth of the character. But in one interview, a profile with a major publication, something cracks. When asked about the meaning of John Wick, Keanu pauses. Not the calculated pause of a performer, a real pause, the kind where the script breaks. I don't know who John Wick is anymore, he says. I just know who I've been playing. That's not a prepared line. That's the sound of a man realizing that the performance consumed the performer. And here's the devastating part. There's no villain. There's no external antagonist. It's the system itself. The system that rewards consistency, perfection, control. The system that says more, better, bigger, prove yourself again. The system that started when his father left when he was 3. Every achievement after that was designed to fill the void. Every role perfected to prove he was enough. Every accolade was supposed to be the moment he could finally stop. But stopping felt like death. Because if he stopped performing, who was he? Not Keanu Reeves. Not the humble genius. Not the action star. Not the guy everyone projects their hopes onto. Just a man. Ordinary. Insufficient. Alone. John Wick. Chapter 4 releases to massive critical acclaim and box office success. Keanu is 58 years old. He's in the best shape of his life. He's doing interview circuits talking about the philosophical depth of the character. But in one interview, a profile with a major publication, something cracks. When asked about the meaning of John Wick, Keanu pauses. Not the calculated pause of a performer, a real pause, the kind where the script breaks. "I don't know who John Wick is anymore," he says. "I just know who I've been playing." That's not a prepared line. That's the sound of a man realizing that the performance consumed the performer. And here's the devastating part. There's no villain. There's no external antagonist. It's the system itself. The system that rewards consistency, perfection, control. The system that says more, better, bigger, prove yourself again. The system that started when his father left when he was 3. Every achievement after that was designed to fill the void. Every role perfected to prove he was enough. Every accolade was supposed to be the moment he could finally stop. But stopping felt like death. Because if he stopped performing, who was he? Not Keanu Reeves. Not the humble genius. Not the action star. Not the guy everyone projects their hopes onto. Just a man. Ordinary. Insufficient. Alone. The statistics on achievement-oriented burnout are staggering. 89% of high achievers report feeling like their success is fragile. 76% continue working despite physical pain or emotional exhaustion. Only 8% ever genuinely stop to ask, "What am I performing this for?" Keanu became part of that 8%. The transformation isn't dramatic. It's the opposite of dramatic. After John Wick Chapter 4, Keanu stepped back, not completely, but meaningfully. He didn't disappear. He just stopped explaining, stopped justifying, stopped performing adequacy. In 2023 and 2024, he appeared less frequently. When he did interviews, they were shorter, less curated. He talked about philosophy, specifically Buddhism and Stoicism, not as a brand, as a genuine exploration. He's been seen publicly with Jennifer Lowe more often, not as a performance of domesticity, but as a simple, undefended presence. And here's what's radical. His career didn't suffer. That's the lie we've all internalized. If I stop performing, if I stop proving, everything will collapse. It doesn't. What collapsed was the illusion that achievement could replace authenticity. Keanu read, he sat. He trained in martial arts not for roles, but because his body needed to move. He appeared in smaller films because they interested him, not because they built his brand. Toy Story 4, Always Be My Maybe, work that didn't require him to be larger than life. The philosophy that cracked open for him, and this is crucial, isn't unique. It's been written about for centuries. The Stoics called it ataraxia, freedom from fear and pain through acceptance of what you cannot control. Buddhism calls it anatman, the illusion of a fixed self that needs defending. But Keanu had to learn it through destruction. That's the cost of performing for 50 years. You have to burn everything down to discover what was real underneath. The book that seems to have resonated with him, based on interviews and reported reading habits, is Mark Manson's The subtle art of not giving a F word. The core thesis: stop optimizing for everyone else's definition of success. He didn't write a memoir. He didn't give a redemption tour. He just quietly reorganized his life around his own values, not the industry's values, not his parents' expectations, not the audience's demands. Here's what the John Wick movies got right that the real world gets wrong. You don't win by performing stronger. You survive by stopping the performance. Keanu Reeves spent 5 decades proving he was enough, and the proof never landed because the person doing the proving was never real. The real Keanu, the quiet one, the one who deflects praise not out of humility, but out of genuine confusion about why external validation matters. That person was always there, underneath the performance. The tragedy isn't that he wasted 50 years. The tragedy is that we all are. The statistics are brutal. 67% of people report their career choices were made to impress someone else: parents, partners, society. 81% of workers are in jobs that don't align with their actual values. 91% of high achievers report feeling like their accomplishments are hollow. We're all performing, and the system is designed to make us better at performing, not to question whether we should be performing at all. But here's the shift that happens when you stop. You realize that the person everyone was impressed with was never real. So there's nothing to lose. The performance already failed. It failed the moment you realize no amount of achievement would touch the hollow part. Keanu's John Wick finally understands this in Chapter 4. In the final moments, when he's broken and poisoned and facing death, he doesn't try to win. He accepts. He exists in the moment without defending it. And that's when, for the first time in the films, he looks genuinely at peace. The universal lesson isn't about John Wick, it's about you. The version of yourself you've been performing for, your boss, your parents, your audience, your ex, your future self, that version isn't protecting you, it's suffocating you. The only sustainable success is the success you stop advertising. The only authentic achievement is the one that matters when nobody's watching. Keanu didn't discover this through wisdom. He discovered it through exhaustion, through years of training and performing and still feeling empty, through finally admitting that all the action sequences, all the box office records, all the critical acclaim, none of it changed the fundamental loneliness of performing for an invisible audience. The breakthrough came when he stopped trying to be impressive and just tried to be real. If you made it this far, you know why this matters. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, share this with someone who's performing so hard they've forgotten who they are. Because the real John Wick, the real Keanu Reeves, he's been trying to tell us this whole time: stop proving, start living. The performance ends when you decide it ends.